Hey, this is Andrew from Fred 11. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how professional guitar players spend their practice time. We'll take a look at the key concepts that professional guitar players use as they practice to achieve their goals. Okay, so number one, we're going to just start out with the belief that a lot of people have when they see a good guitar player, or a good musician for that matter. They believe that somehow they've been gifted to and they're not the same as me. They're not the same as a normal person. I couldn't possibly play that good. Now, I don't know that this entirely it goes away entirely, because I just saw Joe Bonamassa play something, and I'm pretty sure I felt the same way. So I don't know that it goes away, but it's really important to keep that in check, because it really isn't true. You get to decide how good you become as a guitar player. You get to discover the tools and seek out the people that you need to be around you to be the guitar player that you want to be. So it has nothing to do with what you were born with. Obviously you need a guitar, so that may limit some people. But if you have a guitar and you have time to practice, you can be as good as you want. Okay, let's take a look at the three categories that everything that a guitar player plays will fit into. And the thing about a professional guitar player is they're going to balance their time in these three categories. The first category is technical. That's anything that you would learn, like music theory, scales on your guitar, notes on your guitar, learning your fretboard, learning the relationship between notes. So that's all kind of technical, and a lot of people see that as boring, but it is definitely a category, and it's important for you to dig into. Second one is physical. So we need to develop strength, dexterity, endurance, and we need all of those things in order to play the things that we're learning. And that kind of goes into the third category, which is emotional. It basically is how what you play is perceived by other people. Now, it doesn't matter good or bad. That's not what I'm saying. I just mean the emotion. What do they feel when you play? Right? Like, so, and you there's a lot of ways that you can do this, but that's taking the things that you're learning technically and your physicality, their strength and endurance, and learning ways to express those things on your instrument. So everything fits into these things, but a professional guitar player is going to balance these things. Let me give you an example. So if we're talking about the minor pentatonic scales in this context, right? So technically, it's important to understand the formulas. Major pentatonic is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Minor pentatonic 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. Blues note is a flat 5. So to understand that technically, and then learn it technically on your guitar, meaning where to find all those things in every key. So that's a big job, but you can break those into chunks and work through them. And then there's the physical part of being able to play up and down the scales, to play the licks, and to physically work out your picking pattern, to sync your hands. That's the physical part. And the emotional part would be to learn from people like John Mayer, Eric Clapton, or anybody that you want to that plays pentatonic scales. Learn how they express that. Like when you hear Eric Clapton play, you feel a certain way, right? And so that's what you want to pay attention to. And professional guitar players pay attention to that. How do they make other people feel, or how do they make themselves feel, or how do they make themselves feel the same way when they play the Eric Clapton lick that they feel when they listen to Eric Clapton playing? So there's always that target, that goal to shoot for when they're going for that lick. And it's not necessarily just a physical goal or a technical goal. It's, do I feel the same way when I listen to myself play it back? And so that's one thing that's super important that a lot of people miss entirely. And just kind of a side note, but if the only way you learn songs is through YouTube and tabs, you could entirely miss this whole category, because it's only really done if you're learning songs and you basically develop the skill to learn songs with your ear. And that is not a special gift that only some people have. That is something that you can learn. And then you're relying on what your ear is to identify the things that you're learning technically. The how part of all of this, a lot of them go through a lot of professional guitar players go through a process similar to this, and there are 3 stages to the path of effortless expression. And the reason why this is important, because when you're playing music, you want to stay present in an emotional state. You don't want to be necessarily intellectual in the left part of your brain. You want to be able to express yourself and express the emotion, interact with the people you're playing with the audience, if you're performing in front of someone. And so these 3 stages are kind of a progression through it. So the first stage is to simplify. So if we take that same example of pentatonic scales, well, you want to simplify. Of course, there's 12 keys, and there's major and minor pentatonic, and there's 5 patterns in each that a lot of people start out on. So that's 5 plus 5 times 12. So 10 times 12, 120 different places that you would play the scale. Well, we need to simplify that. That's the first thing that we need to do. Well, a major pentatonic has 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. A minor pentatonic has 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. And this happens in various parts of the guitar. So if you're working at simplifying your fretboard and understanding the relationships, it's very easy to see those 5 patterns and realize that the major pentatonic patterns and the minor pentatonic patterns are the same. They're just shifted by 3 frets. And so, again, that's an example of simplifying your understanding of pentatonic scales from this, I got to learn 120 scales, to here's the concept, and you work through exploring that concept on your fretboard. Okay, so once you've simplified and you have kind of an idea of how you're going to look at the fretboard or the concept that you're learning, then you go into the second stage, which is mastering something. And the whole idea for that is, of course, you're going to be working on all 3 of those categories that we talked about earlier in this whole process. But the whole thing about mastery is to become familiar. You want to become as familiar with that as you can. So familiar with where the notes are in a specific key. You want to become familiar with the degrees of the scale in the minor pentatonic and major pentatonic, what they sound like when you learn different licks from different people. Understand where the numbers are so that you know what those numbers and relationships and intervals sound like. And so over the course of time, as you're working on mastering this concept, at some point you get to the third stage, which is you're able to effortlessly express yourself with that concept. So you just know it so well. You're not thinking about what key you're in. You're not thinking about what pattern you're in. You're just thinking about, I feel this way and I want to play this melody, and you just play it. And so that's kind of the steps to that. So there's habits that you need to build for that. There's hard work. And so professional guitar players build this into their practicing. I'm talking about the ultimate goal, right? Even professional guitar players aren't doing all of this 100% of the time, and they might focus on certain things, and they can, effortlessly express in this area, and they spend time in that area. If they were to go to this area, they wouldn't sound as good. So they stay in the area they're super comfortable with. And what the goal is to really grow that, so that you can effortlessly express with more and more concepts. This is just another blog post to kind of point you in that direction, to organize your practice time around developing different concepts. I'd love to know what you think with your posts below, and visit fred11.com. Sign up for the newsletter if you're not on it, and I'm here cheering you on. So let me know what you think.